She walks in, she doesn't walk out. Crush her in the press. Make it look like an accident. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Mitchell stopped breathing. His hand tightened on Titan's leash as the words drifted through the frozen air of Blackstone Salvage Yard. Two men's cigarettes glowing in the darkness, planning a murder like they were discussing the weather. Titan's hackles rose. The German Shepherd had heard it too. Somewhere on the access road, headlights appeared. A patrol car. A woman driving alone into a trap that would kill her in the next 30 minutes. Before we continue, drop your city in the comments below. If you believe in justice, loyalty, and the courage to stand against corruption, hit subscribe. Stay until the end. This story will remind you why good people still matter. Ryan Mitchell was not supposed to be here. The salvage yard sat at the edge of Spokane, like a forgotten wound, acres of crushed metal and frozen silence that most people avoided after dark. Ryan had come looking for a transmission part for his truck, the kind of practical errand that kept him grounded in civilian life. 3 years out of the Navy SEALs, and he still measured his days by tasks completed, problems solved, missions accomplished. Even if the missions were just keeping an old pickup running. Titan walked beside him, 4 years old and built like a tank. The German Shepherd's black and tan coat was dusted with snow, his amber eyes scanning the darkness with the focus of a dog who had spent 2 years in combat zones before medical retirement. One ear carried a notch from shrapnel, a matching scar to the one on Ryan's left shoulder. They had earned their marks together. Ryan wore his old NWU Type 3 uniform out of habit more than necessity. The digital camouflage pattern of greens and browns felt like a second skin, comfortable in ways civilian clothes never quite managed. His dark brown hair was cropped short, military regulation, even though no one checked anymore. A thin scar crossed his jaw where an IED fragment had kissed him in Fallujah, a reminder that luck was a currency he had spent freely and might not always have. The yard was supposed to be closed, but the gate hung open, the chain cut clean. Ryan had noticed but hadn't cared. Salvage yards operated on their own rules after hours. He had learned not to ask questions about things that didn't concern him. Then, Titan stopped. The dog didn't bark, didn't growl. He simply froze every muscle. Rigid ears rotating forward like satellite dishes locking onto a signal. Ryan felt the change in the air before he understood it, a shift in pressure, a thinning of the silence that meant human presence nearby. His hand moved to Titan's collar. Old instincts never died. Voices drifted through the cold, carried by wind that threaded between stacked car carcasses. Two men, maybe 30 yards away, hidden behind a shipping container. Their words were casual, unhurried, the tone of professionals discussing routine business. Doesn't matter what she thinks she found. Webb says she's been digging too deep. Ryan's body went still. The captain's getting nervous. She's connected dots that should have stayed scattered. A second voice, rougher, impatient. So we handle it. That's what we do. Tonight, she'll come alone. Some anonymous tip about evidence buried near the press. Curiosity killed the cop, right? Laughter. Cold, humorless. Crush her in the press. Stage it like an accident. Equipment malfunction. Tragic. By morning, she's another cautionary tale about working alone. Ryan's jaw tightened until his teeth ached. And the captain? Webb wants it clean. No witnesses, no complications. She disappears, the investigation dies with her. The name hit Ryan like a bucket of ice water. Captain Webb. He knew that name. Everyone in Spokane knew that name. Marcus Webb, 22 years on the force, decorated officer mentor to half the detectives in the department. A man whose face appeared in newspapers when the city needed to look good, whose voice reassured the public that justice was being served. Marcus Webb had ordered a murder. Titan whined softly, pressing against Ryan's leg. The dog felt his handler's tension, the coiling of muscles that preceded action. Ryan placed his hand on Titan's head, a silent command for patience. Not yet. The men's voices faded as they moved deeper into the yard, their footsteps crunching on frozen ground. Ryan counted to 30, then eased forward, keeping the shipping container between himself and their last known position. His mind was already running calculations. A female detective investigating something dangerous. An anonymous tip designed to lure her here. A trap set by her own department. He should walk away. This wasn't his fight. He was a civilian now, a man who fixed trucks and walked his dog and tried not to think about the friends he had buried in foreign sand. He had no badge, no authority, no responsibility for whatever corruption was eating through Spokane's police department. But he couldn't unhear what he had heard. And somewhere on the access road, headlights were approaching. Ryan moved before the decision fully formed. He crossed 20 yards of open ground, Titan ghosting beside him, and positioned himself at the edge of the yard entrance, where the access road curved toward the main gate. His breath fogged in the cold, controlled and steady, despite the adrenaline beginning to burn through his bloodstream. The patrol car appeared through the snowfall, a single vehicle moving slowly, cautiously. Ryan could see the driver through the windshield. A woman, dark hair pulled back, face set with determination. She was alone. Of course she was alone. The trap required isolation. Ryan stepped into the road. The patrol car's brakes engaged tires hissing on slush. The headlights caught Ryan full in the face, and he raised one hand, palm open, deliberately non-threatening. With his other hand, he gave Titan a subtle signal. The German Shepherd moved to the front of the vehicle and sat directly in its path. 70 pounds of muscle and discipline blocking the road like a living barricade. The driver's door opened. Detective Elena Vasquez stepped out with her weapon-drawn stance. Textbook perfect voice, sharp enough to cut glass. "Police, don't move. Hands where I can see them." Ryan kept his hands up, kept his voice calm. "My name is Ryan Mitchell. I'm not armed, and you need to listen to me." "I said, don't move." Elena's eyes flicked to Titan, then back to Ryan. "Control your dog." "He's controlled. He's also the only thing standing between you and a death sentence." Something flickered in Elena's expression, not fear, but recognition. The recognition of a woman who had learned to trust her instincts even when they screamed warnings she didn't want to hear. "What are you talking about? There are at least 2 men in this yard waiting to kill you. They plan to crush you in the car press and make it look like an accident." Ryan's voice was steady, urgent, without panic. "The tip that brought you here, it's a trap, and it was ordered by someone inside your department." Elena's gun didn't waver, but her jaw tightened. "Who?" "Captain Marcus Webb." The name landed like a physical blow. Ryan watched the color drain from Elena's face, watched her weapon hand tremble for just a fraction of a second before discipline reasserted itself. "That's impossible." "I heard them say his name. I heard them describe exactly how you would die." Ryan took a breath. "You can arrest me, you can ignore me, or you can let me help you. But if you drive into that yard alone, you won't drive out." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the soft fall of snow and Titan's steady breathing. Elena studied Ryan's face, searching for deception. She saw the military bearing, the calm eyes, the scar on his jaw that spoke of violence survived. She saw a man who had no obvious reason to lie, no stake in her survival, beyond whatever human decency remained in the world. She saw someone who reminded her of her father. "How do I know you're not part of this?" Ryan met her gaze without flinching. "If I were, you'd already be dead." The logic was brutal, irrefutable. Elena felt it settle into her chest like a cold stone. "Who are you?" "Navy SEAL, retired. I came here looking for truck parts and found something worse." Ryan nodded toward the yard. "Your radio is dead, isn't it?" "Try it." Elena's free hand moved to her shoulder mic. Static. Nothing but static. "Short-range jammer," Ryan said. "Military grade probably. They didn't want you calling for backup." Elena's mind raced. The anonymous tip had come through an internal channel flagged urgent, marked sensitive. She had been suspicious, she was always suspicious, but the information had seemed too specific to ignore. Financial records linking the trafficking ring she had been investigating for 18 months. Evidence that could finally crack the case open. Evidence that didn't exist. Because the case she had been building was about to bury her. "Webb," she breathed. He assigned me this investigation. Then he knows exactly what you found. And he decided you found too much. Elena's weapon lowered slightly. Not a surrender, but an acknowledgement. You said at least 2 men. Did you see them? No, I heard them. One's calm professional. He's done this before. The other's nervous following orders. There might be more I didn't hear. And you just happened to be walking your dog in an abandoned salvage yard at 10 o'clock at night. Ryan almost smiled. Transmission trouble. Bad timing. Good ears. Elena looked at Titan, who hadn't moved from his position in front of her car. The dog's eyes were fixed on her with unsettling intelligence, like he was waiting for her to make the right choice. Your dog's well trained. He was a military working dog. Medical retirement after his handler was killed in Afghanistan. Ryan paused. I adopted him. We look out for each other. Something in Elena's expression softened just for a moment. Then the detective mask snapped back into place. If what you're saying is true, I can't call this in. Not through normal channels. No. And I can't walk away because they'll know the trap failed and they'll try again. Also no. So what do you suggest? Ryan's eyes moved to the yard, calculating angles, distances, the geometry of violence he had learned in places whose names were classified. We turn it around. They think you're walking into an ambush. Let's make sure they're the ones who get surprised. Elena holstered her weapon. The decision was made. You have any tactical training, or is this going to be amateur hour? Ryan's mouth twitched. 12 years of special operations, 57 combat missions. I'll try to keep up. For the first time, Elena felt something other than fear and suspicion. She felt hope. Okay, sailor. What's the plan? They moved quickly, abandoning Elena's patrol car at the entrance and circling wide through the frozen underbrush that bordered the salvage yard. Ryan led his boots, finding solid ground, with the instinct of a man who had spent years navigating terrain designed to kill. Titan ranged ahead, a dark shadow against the snow, his nose mapping the yard in ways human senses couldn't match. Elena followed close behind, her own training asserting itself. She had been a beat cop for 4 years before making detective, had walked dark streets and cleared dangerous rooms. But this was different. This was her own people trying to erase her. The betrayal burned worse than the cold. You said Webb ordered this, she whispered as they paused behind a stack of flattened sedans. How high does this go? Ryan shook his head. I don't know. But the way they talked about him, like he was middle management, not the boss. There's someone higher. Elena's jaw tightened. I've been investigating a trafficking ring for 18 months. Human cargo. Women and children move through the port, distributed across 3 states. Every time I get close to the source, evidence disappears. Witnesses recant. Files get corrupted. Someone's protecting it from inside. Someone with access to everything I do. Someone who knows exactly where I'm looking before I look there. Ryan processed this, adding it to the picture forming in his mind. Corrupt cops were common enough. Every war zone had taught him that power attracted predators. But a trafficking ring protected at the highest levels of law enforcement, that was organized. That was institutional. That was the kind of enemy that didn't stop until it was destroyed. Your investigation, Ryan said quietly. Does it connect to your captain directly? Elena hesitated. I don't know. I've been careful not to look at anyone in my department. I thought... She stopped, the words catching in her throat. You thought they were family. Webb was my mentor. He recruited me into investigations. He pushed for my promotion. Elena's voice cracked slightly. He came to my father's funeral. Ryan turned to look at her, really look, and saw the devastation behind the professional mask. Your father was a cop. Detective Miguel Vasquez, 15 years on the force. He was killed investigating corruption in the department. Elena's eyes were wet, but her voice hardened. They said it was an accident, car crash on a mountain road. I was 16. I never believed it. The words hit Ryan like a gut punch. This wasn't just a case to her. This was a 15-year crusade. A daughter trying to finish what her father had started, fighting an enemy that had been hiding in plain sight all along. Elena. Ryan's voice was gentle but firm. If Webb killed your father, then I'm going to prove it, and I'm going to make him pay. The certainty in her voice was absolute. Ryan recognized it. He had felt the same thing after Fallujah, after the bodies of his teammates were loaded onto helicopters while he stood helpless and broken. The certainty that burned away everything else until only justice remained. Or revenge. He wasn't sure there was a difference anymore. Okay, Ryan said. Then let's get you the evidence to do it. But first, we survive tonight. They moved deeper into the yard, staying low, using the stacked vehicles as cover. Titan remained ahead, his body language communicating what his voice couldn't clear. Clear stop danger left. Ryan read the dog like a map. After 5 minutes of careful progress, Titan froze. His head turned toward the center of the yard where the car press loomed like a sleeping giant. Ryan raised a fist, the universal signal to hold, and Elena stopped instantly behind him. Voices. Closer now. Should have been here by now. She'll come. Badge makes them stupid. They can't resist playing hero. Ryan eased forward, peering through a gap between two crushed trucks. He could see them now, 2 men standing near the press, their breath fogging in the cold. One was tall and lean, head-shaved, a professional killer's posture in every line of his body. The other was shorter, heavier, fidgeting with a phone in his gloved hands. And there was a third man hanging back in the shadows, watching the entrance road. 3 targets. 2 confirmed armed, the third likely. Ryan pulled back and held up 3 fingers for Elena. She nodded, her face set. They're expecting you to walk in from the main path, Ryan whispered. Which means they're positioned to intercept from the front. So we come from behind. Exactly. I'll circle left, get above them on the crusher control platform. Titan will cover the third man. You come from the right, draw their attention, and when they focus on you, you drop on them. Something like that. Elena's hand found Ryan's arm, stopping him. Why are you doing this? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Ryan was quiet for a moment, his eyes distant with memories he rarely allowed to surface. 6 years ago, I lost 2 men in Fallujah. Not to enemy fire, to bad information. Someone inside our network sold our patrol route to insurgents. We walked into an ambush that should never have existed. His voice was flat, controlled. I couldn't save them. I've spent every day since trying to live with that. Elena understood. You can't save everyone. No, but I can save the ones I can. Ryan's eyes met hers. You're fighting the same war I fought. Different uniform, same enemy. I'm not going to walk away from that. Elena felt something shift in her chest, the hard knot of isolation that had defined her for years loosening just slightly. Okay, sailor, let's go hunting. They separated Elena, moving right through a maze of stacked vehicles, Ryan going left toward the looming bulk of the car press. Titan received his command through hand signals and disappeared into the darkness, circling wide toward the third man's position. Ryan climbed. The control platform sat 15 feet above the yard floor, accessible by a rusted ladder that groaned under his weight. He moved slowly, distributing pressure to minimize sound, and pulled himself onto the platform with arms that remembered countless similar climbs in less forgiving places. From above, the geometry of the yard became clear. The 2 primary targets stood facing the main approach, weapons holstered but easily accessible. The third man was 50 yards back, positioned to cut off any retreat. They had done this before the spacing was too precise for amateurs. But they hadn't planned for elevation. Ryan settled into position, his body pressed against the cold metal of the platform railing, and waited. 60 seconds. Elena appeared at the edge of the clearing, deliberately visible, her flashlight beam sweeping across the ground like she was searching for something. The tall man saw her first. His hand moved to his weapon, but he didn't draw, not yet. He wanted her closer, wanted her committed. Detective Morgan. The name was wrong, but it didn't matter. He wanted her attention. Elena stopped, her flashlight beam swinging toward the voice. "Who's there?" "Yard security. We got a call about trespassers." The lie was smooth practiced. "You shouldn't be here alone." "I'm following up on a tip. Evidence related to an ongoing investigation." The shorter man had moved now, flanking left, his hand inside his jacket. The third man was advancing from behind, closing the triangle. Ryan watched the trap closing, and then he gave Titan the signal. The German Shepherd hit the third man from behind with 70 pounds of focused violence. No barking, no warning, just the sudden impact of muscle and teeth finding the arm that held a weapon. The man's scream shattered the silence. The tall man spun toward the sound weapon, clearing his holster. Ryan dropped from the platform. 15 feet of freefall, aimed with the precision of a man who had made similar drops from helicopter skids and compound walls. His boots hit the tall man's shoulders, driving him into the ground with bone-cracking force. The weapon discharged once harmlessly before Ryan's knee found the man's throat and his hands found the gun. Elena moved. She closed the distance to the shorter man in 3 steps. Her own weapon up, her voice, carrying the authority of 12 years of police training. "Don't move hands where I can see them." The shorter man froze, caught between Elena's gun and the chaos behind him. His hand slowly emerged from his jacket, empty, trembling. "On your knees. Now." He complied, defeat written in every line of his body. In the space of 8 seconds, the trap had inverted. Ryan secured the tall man unconscious, but breathing with zip ties from his pocket, then moved to help Titan with the third. The German Shepherd had the man pinned, jaws clamped on his forearm, growling low and steady. "Release." Titan obeyed immediately, stepping back, but maintaining his position, amber eyes never leaving the man he had subdued. "3 down, Ryan said, pulling the third man's hands behind his back. "Anyone else you didn't mention?" Elena moved through the clearing, checking corners, clearing shadows. Her training had taken over the shaking she had suppressed, now channeled into action. "Clear." Ryan stood breathing hard, his shoulder screaming where the old injury had been jarred by the impact. He ignored it. "We need to secure them somewhere. And we need to find out who else is involved." Elena's eyes swept the yard and landed on the shipping container she had passed earlier. There, steel walls lockable from outside. They can sit in the cold and think about their life choices. Ryan almost smiled. "I like the way you think, detective." They moved the 3 men into the container one by one, the tall one still unconscious. The other 2 bound and compliant. Elena searched them methodically, removing phones, weapons, and identification. The tall man's wallet contained a driver's license with the name Marco Reyes and a business card for a private security company. "Blackwater alumni," Ryan said, examining the card. "Contract killers with corporate cover." The shorter man, Eli Porter, according to his ID, started talking the moment Elena's flashlight hit his face. "Look, I was just following orders. I didn't want to hurt anyone. Webb said it was necessary. Said she was going to destroy good cops with her investigation." Elena's hand shot out and grabbed his collar, pulling him close. "Webb said what?" Eli's eyes went wide with terror. "Captain Webb, he set it up. He said you were getting too close to something that would take down the whole department. He said it was for the greater good." "The greater good?" Elena's voice was ice. "Who else? Who's Webb working for?" Eli shook his head frantically. "I don't know, I swear. Webb just gives orders. But there's someone higher, someone he reports to. I heard him on the phone once calling someone, sir. Someone important." Ryan stepped closer. "Did you hear a name?" "No." But Webb was scared. Really scared. Whoever he was talking to, Webb, was afraid of him. Elena released Eli and stepped back, her mind racing. Webb was a captain high enough to have serious power, but not the top of the food chain. If he was scared of someone above him, that meant the corruption reached higher than she had imagined. How high, Commissioner Mayer? Someone in the federal system. Her father had been investigating corruption when he died. 15 years ago. The same investigation she had unknowingly picked up. The same enemy. The third man, Vincent, according to his wallet, spoke for the first time since Titan had taken him down. "You're dead. Both of you. You just don't know it yet." Ryan crouched in front of him, his face calm, his eyes cold. "I've been dead before. It didn't take." Vincent's confidence faltered. "Whoever sent you wherever this goes, you're going to tell us everything. Names, dates, operations. Every dirty dollar, every buried body." Ryan's voice dropped to a whisper. "Because if you don't, I'm going to leave you in this container with my dog, and he hasn't had dinner yet." Titan, as if on cue, growled low and steady. Vincent's face went white. "Deputy Chief," he said quickly. "Deputy Chief Harrison Cole. He runs everything. Webb, the trafficking, the money, it all flows through Cole." Elena felt the world tilt. Harrison Cole. 25 years on the force. The man who had spoken at her father's funeral, who had called Miguel Vasquez, "one of the finest officers I ever knew." The man who had probably ordered her father's death. "Cole," she breathed. "It's been Cole all along." Vincent nodded frantically. "He's connected to everyone. Judges, politicians, feds. He's got a guy inside the FBI who kills any investigation that gets close. Nothing sticks to him. Nothing ever sticks." Ryan stood processing this information. A deputy chief with federal protection. A trafficking ring that had operated for decades without interference. A murdered detective whose daughter had unknowingly picked up his investigation. This was bigger than a salvage yard trap. This was an empire built on human suffering, protected by badges and lies. Elena's phone buzzed impossible, since the jammer should have blocked it. She pulled it out and saw a notification from an unknown number. A single word. Status. Someone was expecting a report. Someone who didn't know the trap had failed. Ryan saw the message over her shoulder. "Cole, or Webb, or whoever's waiting for confirmation that I'm dead." Ryan met her eyes, and a new plan began to form. "They think you're gone. They're waiting for proof." He paused. "What if we give them exactly what they expect?" Elena understood immediately. "Stage my death. Make it convincing. And when they come to verify, we catch them red-handed." Elena looked at the container holding 3 men who had tried to kill her. She looked at Titan, standing guard with the patience of a predator. She looked at Ryan Mitchell, a stranger who had chosen to fight her war without being asked. "You know this is insane, right?" Ryan almost smiled. "The best plans usually are." Elena's phone buzzed again. Another message. Respond. She looked at the screen, then at Ryan. "What do we tell them?" Ryan took the phone and typed 3 words. "It's done." He sent it before Elena could object. "Now we have until dawn to make it convincing. After that, they'll come to clean up. And when they do, we take them down." Elena felt something she hadn't felt in years. Not hope. Hope was for people who hadn't learned how the world worked. This was something harder, sharper. Purpose. "Okay, sailor, let's stage a murder." The snow continued to fall silent and indifferent, covering the tracks of violence and truth alike. Somewhere in the city, Deputy Chief Harrison Cole waited for confirmation that his problem had been solved. He didn't know that his problems were just beginning. And in the frozen darkness of Blackstone Salvage Yard, a Navy SEAL and a detective began to build a trap of their own. The hunters had become the hunted. Ryan worked fast. He pulled Elena's patrol car deeper into the yard, positioning it at an angle against a stack of crushed vehicles. The impact needed to look violent. A detective who drove too fast lost control on icy ground and crashed before she could react. Elena watched him work, her mind still reeling from Vincent's confession. Harrison Cole. The name echoed in her head like a gunshot. "You're thinking about your father," Ryan said without looking up. "How did you know?" "Because I'd be thinking about mine." He popped the hood of the patrol car and disconnected 2 lines. Fluid began to pool beneath the engine. "Cole was at the funeral. You said that." "He gave the eulogy, called my father a hero, said the department had lost one of its finest." Elena's voice cracked. "I was 16. I stood there and cried while the man who murdered my father told everyone what a great cop he was." Ryan stopped working and turned to face her. "We're going to get him, Elena. Tonight started as their trap. It's going to end as ours." Elena wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, angry at her own weakness. How do we stage this convincingly? Cole didn't get where he is by being stupid. He'll check everything. Ryan reached into his pack and pulled out a medical kit. Combat medic training. I know how to make wounds look real. He opened the kit, revealing tubes and packets that Elena didn't recognize. Stage blood. Looks authentic. Dries properly, even smells right if someone gets close enough. You just carry that around. Old habits. Ryan's mouth twitched. Let's just say this isn't my first time faking a death. He worked methodically, smearing the synthetic blood across the driver's seat, the steering wheel, the dashboard. He created a pattern of impact, head striking the wheel body thrown against the door. He scattered Elena's flashlight, her radio, her badge across the snow in positions that suggested panic and chaos. Elena added her own touch, pulling strands of hair from her head and placing them in the dried blood on the headrest. DNA evidence, she said. Cole will have his people check. Ryan nodded, impressed. Good thinking. I've staged enough crime scenes to know what investigators look for. She paused. Never thought I'd be staging my own murder. They finished as the first gray light of dawn began to seep into the sky. The patrol car looked exactly like what it was supposed to be, the final resting place of a detective who had gotten too close to the truth. Now we wait, Ryan said. Elena shook her head. Now we need backup. Real backup. Someone outside Cole's reach. You have anyone you trust? Elena thought about it. 3 years of isolation, of suspecting everyone, of watching colleagues she had called friends get transferred or reassigned whenever they asked too many questions. No, she admitted. Not inside the department. What about federal? That's the problem. Vincent said Cole has someone inside the FBI. Anyone I contact could be compromised. Ryan was quiet for a moment, then pulled out a satellite phone, battered, taped together, the kind of equipment that had seen serious use. I might know someone. Elena raised an eyebrow. When I was still active, we worked with an FBI agent on a joint counter-trafficking operation. She was new then, straight out of Quantico, idealistic as hell. The kind of person who got into law enforcement because she actually believed in justice. And you trust her. She transferred to the Seattle field office 3 months ago. If Cole's mole is in Spokane, she's probably clean. Ryan hesitated. Her name is Diana Torres. She lost a brother to human trafficking when she was 12. It's why she joined the bureau. Elena understood immediately. Torres wasn't just an agent, she was a crusader. The same kind of person Elena had become. Make the call. Ryan dialed a number from memory. The phone rang twice before a woman's voice answered, sharp and alert despite the early hour. Torres. Diana, it's Ryan Mitchell. SEAL Team 7, Operation Nightfall. A pause. Mitchell, it's been 4 years. I thought you were dead. Funny. That seems to be going around. Ryan glanced at Elena. I need your help. Off the books, off the record. Something big. How big? Deputy Chief of Spokane PD running a human trafficking ring. Multiple murders, including a cop 15 years ago. They just tried to kill his daughter tonight. Torres was silent for 3 heartbeats. Tell me everything. Ryan gave her the summary, the salvage yard, the trap, the 3 men locked in the container, Vincent's confession. He told her about Elena, about her investigation, about the 18 months of dead ends that suddenly made sense. When he finished, Torres exhaled slowly. Cole. Harrison Cole. I've heard that name before. There's been a file on him for years, sealed need to know only. Every time someone tries to investigate, the case gets transferred or classified. Someone's protecting him from inside the bureau. That's what I'm afraid of. Torres paused. I can't bring this through normal channels. If Cole has a mole, they'll know within hours. Can you come here personally? I'm 3 hours out, but Mitchell, if what you're saying is true, you're sitting on a powder keg. Cole will send people to verify the death. If they find out she's alive before I get there. They won't. Ryan's voice was steel. Just get here, Diana. Bring whoever you trust. Nobody else. Copy that. 3 hours. The line went dead. Elena looked at Ryan with something new in her eyes. You have interesting friends. Torres isn't a friend. She's something better. She's honest. They moved back to the shipping container where their 3 captives waited. The cold had done its work. The men were shivering, their breath fogging in the frozen air. Eli was crying softly. Vincent stared at the wall with the empty eyes of a man who had accepted his fate. Marco, the professional, watched Elena with something that looked almost like respect. She's FBI, Elena said, crouching in front of Vincent. The agent we just called. She'll be here in 3 hours with a federal warrant. Whatever deal you think you might have had with Cole, it's gone. The only question now is whether you cooperate and spend 20 years in prison or stay loyal and spend the rest of your life in a concrete box. Vincent's jaw tightened. Cole will kill me if I talk. Cole tried to kill me 4 hours ago. Look how that worked out. Marco laughed a short, harsh sound. She's got a point, he said. I've been doing this for 12 years. Never seen a target turn the table like this. Then help me turn it further. Elena faced Marco directly. You're a contractor. You work for money, not loyalty. What's Cole paying you? $20,000 for tonight. Standard cleanup rate. I can't match that, but I can offer you something more valuable. Marco raised an eyebrow. What's that? Your life. Elena leaned closer. Cole doesn't leave loose ends. The moment this operation went sideways, you became a liability. If you walk out of here and try to contact him, you'll be dead within the week. Your only chance of survival is helping us take him down. Marco considered this, his professional mind weighing the odds. You want names, dates, operations. Everything you know. It'll take more than 3 hours. Then start with the most important part. Who's Cole's contact inside the FBI? Marco's eyes flickered just for a moment, but Elena caught it. You know, don't you? I know what I've heard. Names get dropped when clients think you're not listening. Marco paused. Special Agent Richard Cross. He's been on Cole's payroll for at least 8 years. Every federal investigation into Spokane corruption runs through his desk, and every one of them dies there. Elena felt the pieces clicking into place. Richard Cross. She had met him once at an interagency conference on organized crime. He had seemed professional, competent, exactly the kind of agent you would want handling sensitive cases. The perfect mole. How do we prove it? Marco smiled thinly. Cole keeps records, everything. He's paranoid enough to trust nobody smart enough to have insurance against everyone. Payments, communications video, it's all documented somewhere. Where? That I don't know. But Webb might. Webb's been Cole's right hand for 20 years. If anyone knows where the bodies are buried literally and figuratively, it's him. Elena stood, her mind racing. Webb, her mentor. The man who had guided her career, who had encouraged her investigation, even as he secretly tried to destroy it. The man who had probably been in the room when they decided to kill her father. We need Webb to come here, she said to Ryan. He needs to see my death for himself. Ryan frowned. That's dangerous. Webb knows you. He'll look closer than anyone else. Exactly. Which means when he confirms I'm dead, Cole will believe it. Elena's eyes hardened. And when Cole believes it, he'll relax. He'll make mistakes. He'll say things he wouldn't say if he thought anyone was listening. You want to bait them both. Webb first, then Cole. I want to end this. Tonight. Before they have time to regroup, before Cross can warn them, before the mole in the FBI realizes what's happening. Elena grabbed Ryan's arm. 3 hours isn't much time, but it might be enough. Ryan studied her face, the determination, the fury, the grief that had been building for 15 years. Okay, he said. Let's call Webb. Elena pulled out the phone they had taken from Eli and scrolled through the contacts. Webb's name was there, saved under Captain W. She typed a message. Problem at the yard. Need you here. Personally. The reply came 90 seconds later. On my way. 30 minutes. Elena showed Ryan the screen. 30 minutes. Then we'll have Webb. And after that, we get Cole. They worked fast, positioning themselves around the staged crash site. Ryan took a position inside the control booth of the car press where he could observe without being seen. Elena hid behind a stack of vehicles 30 yards from her body, close enough to hear but far enough to avoid detection. Titan remained with Ryan, the German Shepherd's amber eyes fixed on the yard entrance. The waiting was the hardest part. Elena's mind kept drifting to memories she had buried for 15 years. Her father's laugh. His hands teaching her to ride a bike. The way he would kiss her mother's forehead every morning before leaving for work like it might be the last time. The last time had been a Tuesday. She remembered because they were supposed to have dinner together, just the two of them, at the little Italian place he loved. He never came home. They told her it was an accident. Car trouble on a mountain road, brakes that failed at the worst possible moment. She had accepted it because she was 16, and the alternative was too terrible to consider. But she had never stopped wondering. And now she knew. Headlights appeared at the yard entrance. Elena's breath caught. She pressed herself deeper into the shadows, her hand finding her weapon, her body tensing with the anticipation of violence. Captain Marcus Webb stepped out of his unmarked car. He looked exactly as Elena remembered, tall, broad-shouldered, gray at the temples, in a way that made him look distinguished rather than old. He wore his usual overcoat, the one he claimed his wife had given him for their 20th anniversary. He moved toward Elena's staged crash with the careful steps of a man approaching a body. Ryan watched through a gap in the control booth window. His hand rested on Titan's collar, keeping the dog silent. Webb reached the patrol car and stopped. For a long moment, he just stood there, staring at the blood-spattered interior. Then he pulled out his phone and dialed. "It's done," he said, his voice carrying clearly in the frozen air. "She's gone." A pause as the person on the other end spoke. "Yes, I'm sure. I'm looking at the scene right now. Crashed into a pile of scrap head trauma, blood everywhere." Webb walked around the car, examining it from different angles. "The contractors did clean work. It looks like an accident." Another pause. "No, I haven't touched anything. We'll need to have our people process the scene before anyone else sees it. Make it official." Webb's voice hardened. "The last thing we need is state investigators poking around." Elena heard every word. Her mentor. Her father's friend. The man who had guided her career. Confirming her death to the man who had ordered it. Something inside her went cold and still. Webb ended his call and stood beside the crashed patrol car, his breath fogging in the morning air. For a moment, Elena thought she saw something flicker across his face. Regret, maybe, or guilt. Then it was gone, replaced by the professional mask of a man who had buried his conscience years ago. "I'm sorry, Elena," Webb said quietly, speaking to the empty car. "You were a good cop, better than your father actually, but you just couldn't stop digging." He turned to leave. Elena stepped out of the shadows. "Captain Webb?" Webb spun his hand, going for his weapon, his face cycling through shock, disbelief, and finally terror in the space of 2 seconds. "Elena, that's impossible. You're dead." "That's what you wanted, isn't it?" Elena's voice was ice. "That's what you and Cole planned. Make it look like an accident. Just like my father." Webb's hand dropped from his weapon. His face went pale. "You don't understand." "I understand everything. I understand you've been protecting Cole's trafficking ring for 20 years. I understand you've been feeding him information about my investigation. I understand you sent me here to die. Elena, listen to me. I understand you killed my father." The words hung in the frozen air. Webb's face crumpled. For a moment, he looked like an old man carrying a weight that had finally become too heavy to bear. "I didn't kill Miguel. I swear to God I didn't." "But you know who did." Webb was silent. "Tell me." Elena raised her weapon. "Tell me or I swear I'll finish this right now." "Cole." Webb's voice cracked. Cole gave the order. Miguel was getting too close. He had found the payment records, the connections to the Port Authority. Another week and he would have had enough to bring down everything. So Cole had him killed. It wasn't supposed to happen. Cole said he would just scare him off, threaten him, make him back down. But Miguel wouldn't back down. Webb's eyes filled with tears. He was stubborn, just like you. Elena felt the rage building in her chest, hot and bright and dangerous. You could have stopped it. You could have warned him. I tried. God help me, I tried. But I was too late. By the time I found out what Cole was planning, Miguel was already dead. And you've been working for Cole ever since. Webb nodded slowly. He had evidence. Photos, recordings, bank accounts. If I tried to expose him, he would have destroyed me. Destroyed my family. His voice dropped to a whisper. I've spent 15 years living in hell, Elena. Every day I looked at you and saw Miguel's eyes. Every day I knew what I had let happen. You guided my career. You mentored me. I protected you, the only way I could. Webb took a step closer. Why do you think your investigation hit so many dead ends? I was steering you away from the truth, keeping you safe from Cole. Safe? Elena laughed bitterly. You sent me here to die. Cole gave me no choice. You had gotten too close. He said either I brought you in or he would have my wife and children killed. Webb's face twisted with anguish. I thought maybe I could warn you somehow, give you a chance to run. But you came alone just like he knew you would. Elena stared at the man who had shaped her career, the man she had trusted, the man who had betrayed everything. You're a coward. Yes. Webb didn't argue. I am. I've been a coward for 15 years. But I can be useful now. I can help you bring down Cole. Why should I believe anything you say? Because I'm tired, Elena. Tired of the lies, tired of the fear, tired of looking in the mirror and seeing a monster. Webb spread his hands. I'll testify. I'll give you everything, names, accounts, operations. 20 years of Cole's empire documented and verified. Ryan stepped out of the control booth, Titan at his side. Webb's eyes widened. Who the hell are you? Someone who decided not to let your boss murder a good cop. Ryan moved to stand beside Elena. You have evidence. Not on me, but I know where it is. Cole keeps his insurance in a safety deposit box in Seattle. I have the access codes. Elena and Ryan exchanged a glance. If you're lying, Elena began. I'm not lying. I swear on my children's lives I'm not lying. Webb's voice was desperate now. Cole is coming here himself. He wants to see the scene before anyone else. If you let me help you, we can catch him, tonight. End this forever. Elena felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. Trust the man who had betrayed her family for 20 years. Or walk away and let Cole escape again. She thought about her father, about the 15 years of wondering, about the countless victims who had passed through Cole's trafficking ring while good people looked the other way. When is Cole coming? Within the hour. He's paranoid. He needs to see everything himself. Elena holstered her weapon. Then let's give him something to see. Webb's face flooded with relief. Thank you. I won't let you down this time. You're right. You won't. Elena's eyes were hard. Because if you try anything at all, I'll let my new friend's dog decide your fate. Titan growled low, as if understanding exactly what she meant. Webb swallowed hard. Understood. They had less than an hour. Ryan positioned Webb near the crashed patrol car, rehearsing the story they would tell Cole. Elena found a hiding spot with a clear line of sight to the approach road. Titan ranged through the yard, invisible in the shadows, ready to respond to Ryan's signals. At 7:43 a.m., a black SUV appeared at the yard entrance. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. Deputy Chief Harrison Cole had arrived. And with him, the truth that had been buried for 15 years. The black SUV rolled to a stop 20 feet from the crashed patrol car. Elena watched from her hiding position, her heart pounding so hard she was certain it could be heard across the yard. 15 years. 15 years of questions, of grief, of a wound that never fully healed. And now, the man responsible was stepping out of his vehicle like he owned the world. Harrison Cole emerged first. He was exactly as Elena remembered from her father's funeral, tall, silver-haired, impeccably dressed, even at this early hour. His face carried the composed expression of a man who had learned to wear masks so long he had forgotten he was wearing one. Behind him came two men in dark suits. Bodyguards. Their movements were professional, controlled, their eyes scanning the yard for threats. They didn't see Ryan in the control booth. They didn't see Titan circling wide through the shadows. They didn't see Elena close enough to hear every word. Webb stood beside the crashed patrol car, his face arranged into an expression of grim satisfaction. "It's done," he said as Cole approached. "Clean work." Cole didn't respond immediately. He walked slowly around the patrol car, examining the staged scene with the careful attention of a man who had survived decades by never taking anything at face value. "Where's the body?" "Under the dashboard. The impact crumpled the frame. We'll need cutting equipment to extract her." Cole leaned closer to the driver's window, studying the blood-spattered interior. His jaw tightened slightly. "She looks smaller than I remember." "Everyone looks small after they're dead." Cole straightened and turned to face Webb. "You're certain it's her?" "I'm certain." Webb's voice was steady, but Elena could see his hands trembling slightly in his coat pockets. "I assigned her this case myself. I sent her the tip. I watched her drive in." "And you stayed to verify? You said you wanted it confirmed personally." Cole nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving Webb's face. "You've been with me for 20 years, Marcus. 20 years of keeping my secrets, cleaning my messes, making problems disappear." Cole's voice was soft, almost gentle. "But lately, I've been wondering." Webb's face went pale. "Wondering what?" "Whether your conscience is finally catching up with you." The words hung in the frozen air. Elena's finger tightened on her weapon. "I don't know what you mean," Webb said. "Don't you?" Cole took a step closer. "You've been distant lately. Distracted. Like a man carrying weight he's not sure he can bear anymore." He paused. "Like a man thinking about betrayal." "I would never." Elena Vasquez was one of the best detectives in the department. Smart, determined, relentless. Cole's eyes hardened. Just like her father. And just like her father, she got too close to the truth. "That's why we—" "But here's what troubles me, Marcus." Cole's voice dropped to a whisper. "Miguel Vasquez was getting close 15 years ago, and someone warned him. Someone inside my operation tried to tip him off before we could act." Webb's face went gray. "I never found out who," Cole continued. "The leak stopped after Miguel died. I assumed whoever it was got scared straight." He smiled a cold reptilian expression. "But recently I started wondering. You were close to Miguel. You were one of the few who knew the timeline. And you've been acting strange ever since I ordered his daughter's death." "Harrison, I swear—" "Did you warn her, Marcus?" Cole's voice turned sharp. "Did you give Elena the same chance you gave her father?" Webb's mask cracked. "No, I didn't warn her. I couldn't." His voice broke. "But I wanted to. God help me, I wanted to." Cole's expression didn't change. "I know." He raised his hand. The bodyguard on the left moved with practiced efficiency, drawing his weapon and pressing it to Webb's temple in a single fluid motion. "That's why I brought insurance," Cole said calmly. "You've been a valuable asset, Marcus. But valuable assets become liabilities when their loyalty wavers." Webb closed his eyes. "You're going to kill me." "I'm going to clean up loose ends, starting with you, ending with whatever mess you've made of this operation." Cole glanced at the crashed patrol car. "Elena Vasquez is dead. You've confirmed it. Now you're going to disappear, and I'm going to find someone whose conscience doesn't keep them up at night." Elena had seen enough. She stepped out of the shadows, her weapon raised, her voice cutting through the cold morning air. "Not dead yet." Cole spun toward the sound. For one perfect moment, Elena saw his mask shatter completely. Shock, disbelief, and then something she hadn't expected: fear. Raw, primal fear flooding the face of a man who had thought himself untouchable. "Impossible," he breathed. "You keep saying that." Elena advanced slowly, keeping her weapon trained on Cole's chest. "Maybe it's time to update your vocabulary." The bodyguards reacted instantly, abandoning Webb and pivoting toward the new threat. But before they could bring their weapons to bear, Ryan appeared from the control booth, his voice carrying the command authority of a combat veteran. "Drop them, now." Titan materialized from the shadows, positioning himself between the bodyguards and Elena. The German shepherd's lips pulled back from his teeth, a low growl rumbling from his chest, like thunder before a storm. The bodyguards hesitated. "Your choice," Ryan said calmly. "But my dog hasn't eaten since last night, and he really doesn't like people who point guns at his friends." Weapons clattered to the frozen ground. Cole's face cycled through emotions, shock to fury, to calculation faster than Elena could track. When he spoke, his voice had regained its composure, though his eyes remained wild. "You don't know what you're doing, Detective. There are forces at work here far beyond your understanding." "I understand perfectly." Elena moved closer, her weapon never wavering. "I understand you've been running a human trafficking ring through Spokane for at least 20 years. I understand you've corrupted judges, politicians, and federal agents. I understand you had my father murdered because he got too close to the truth." Cole's jaw tightened. "You can't prove any of that." "Actually, she can." Webb's voice was hoarse but steady. "Because I'm going to help her." Cole turned to Webb with an expression of pure contempt. "You think your testimony means anything? You've been part of this for 2 decades, Marcus. Everything you say will be dismissed as the desperate lies of a man trying to save himself." "Not just testimony." Webb pulled a small device from his pocket, a digital recorder, its red light blinking steadily. "I've been recording every conversation we've had for the past 6 months, including the one where you ordered Elena's execution, including the one where you described exactly how you arranged Miguel Vasquez's death." Cole's face went white. "You wouldn't." "I already have." Webb's voice cracked with something that might have been relief. "It's over, Harrison. All of it. I'm done being your puppet." For a moment nobody moved. Then Cole laughed. The sound was wrong, high-pitched, unstable, the laugh of a man watching his carefully constructed world collapse. "You think this ends anything? You think one recording, one dead cop's daughter, one turncoat captain can bring down what I've built?" Cole spread his arms. "I have judges in my pocket. I have federal agents on my payroll. I have politicians who would burn this city to the ground before they let me testify." "Not all of them," a new voice said. Elena turned. A woman emerged from behind a stack of crushed vehicles, her FBI badge visible on her belt, her weapon drawn and steady. Behind her came 4 more agents, their presence transforming the salvage yard into something official. Diana Torres. "Special Agent Torres," Cole said, his composure returning. "I should have known the Navy would get involved eventually, but I'm afraid you're out of your jurisdiction." "Human trafficking is federal jurisdiction." Torres moved to stand beside Elena. "And conspiracy to murder a federal witness gives me all the authority I need." "What federal witness? I see a detective who's still alive, a captain who just committed career suicide, and a lot of accusations with no evidence to back them up." Torres smiled. "That's where you're wrong." She gestured to one of her agents who was carrying a laptop. "While you were busy monologuing, we've been securing 3 witnesses from that shipping container. Marco Reyes is particularly talkative. Something about wanting to avoid the death penalty." Cole's face flickered just for a moment, but Elena caught the fear beneath the bravado. "Reyes is a contractor, hired muscle. He doesn't know anything that matters." "He knows about Richard Cross." The name hit Cole like a physical blow. "That's right," Torres continued. "Your mole in the FBI. We've been tracking suspicious activity on his network access for months. We just didn't know who he was working for until tonight. She paused. He's being arrested right now, by the way. Agents I trust personally. Whatever warning he might have sent you isn't coming. Cole's mask crumpled completely. For the first time, Elena saw the man beneath the politician, a frightened, cornered animal, realizing that the walls were closing in. You don't understand, Cole said, his voice dropping to something almost pleading. This isn't just about me, the network I built, the people who depend on it. If you bring me down, you bring down half the power structure in this region. Good, Elena said. Cole turned to her, his eyes desperate. Your father understood. At the end, he understood that some institutions are too big to destroy. Some systems are too embedded to remove without tearing everything apart. Elena felt rage surge through her, white-hot, all-consuming. My father understood that people like you hide behind institutions. You corrupt systems so you can claim they're too important to dismantle. You build empires on human suffering and then pretend you're providing stability. Elena, my father died trying to expose you. He died because he believed justice mattered more than convenience. Elena's voice shook. And you had him killed like he was garbage. Like 15 years of service meant nothing. Like his life, like my life, was just another problem to be managed. She took a step closer, her weapon trembling in her grip. Tell me why. Tell me why you had to kill him. Cole met her eyes. Because he wouldn't stop. We offered him money more than he'd ever make as a cop. We offered him protection, a future for his family. But Miguel Vasquez was a true believer. He thought the law was sacred, that truth was absolute, that corruption could be burned away like a disease. Cole's voice turned bitter. He was wrong. The law is a tool, truth is relative, and corruption is just another word for efficiency. Your father couldn't accept that, so he became a liability. He was a good man. He was naive. Cole's mask returned a sneer, twisting his features. And so are you, detective. You think this changes anything. You think one arrest, one trial, one conviction will stop what I've set in motion. The people above me will find someone else. The system will adapt. The machine will keep running. Maybe, Elena said, but it won't have you. She looked at Torres. Deputy Chief Harrison Cole, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, human trafficking, corruption, and the murder of Detective Miguel Vasquez. Elena's voice was steady now, cold with certainty. You have the right to remain silent. I strongly suggest you use it. Cole laughed again, that same unstable sound as the FBI agents moved to secure him. This isn't over, detective. You've torn off one head, but the Hydra has many more. Then I'll keep cutting. Cole's laugh died as the handcuffs clicked shut. Torres gestured to her team. Get him out of here. Process the scene. I want everything documented, every piece of evidence, every recording, every witness statement. As the agents led Cole toward their vehicles, he turned one last time to look at Elena. Your father would be proud, he said, and the words were spoken like a curse. But pride doesn't protect you from what's coming. Then he was gone, disappearing into the back of an FBI SUV. Elena stood in the frozen yard watching the vehicle drive away, feeling 15 years of weight slowly beginning to lift from her shoulders. Ryan appeared beside her, Titan pressing against his leg. You okay? No. Elena's voice cracked. Not yet, but I will be. Webb approached slowly, his face a map of exhaustion and relief. Elena, I know nothing I say can make up for what I did, what I let happen. But I want you to know your father was the best man I ever knew. And watching you grow up, watching you become the kind of cop he always hoped you'd be. Webb's eyes filled with tears. It's been my punishment and my salvation. Elena studied him, this broken man who had lived with his guilt for 2 decades. The recording, she said. 6 months of evidence. Why didn't you act sooner? Because I was afraid. Because Cole had leverage on my family. Because every day I told myself that tomorrow would be different, that I would find the courage to do what your father did. Webb's voice broke. I'm not brave, Elena. I never was. But maybe this is enough. It's not enough. Elena said quietly. It will never be enough, but it's a start. Webb nodded, accepting the judgment. Torres approached them, her phone pressed to her ear. Her expression had shifted from satisfaction to something that looked like alarm. That was my contact at the Port Authority, she said, ending the call. We've got a problem. Ryan tensed. What kind of problem? Coal's last shipment. 37 people, women and children, mostly scheduled to be moved tonight. Our arrest just accelerated the timeline. The ship is leaving in 4 hours, and if we don't stop it, those people disappear forever. Elena felt her exhaustion evaporate, replaced by cold determination. Where? Port of Seattle. But here's the complication: Coal's buyers are already on site. Private military contractors, the kind who shoot first and destroy evidence second. Local police are compromised. My team is stretched thin. Torres met Elena's eyes. I need help. Ryan stepped forward before Elena could respond. I know that port. Worked a joint operation there 2 years ago. He looked at Titan. We can get you in through the maintenance tunnels. Bypass their security entirely. That's suicide, Torres said. You're talking about going up against trained professionals with no backup. I'm talking about saving 37 lives. Ryan's voice was steel. I've done more with less. Elena grabbed his arm. You don't have to do this. You've already done enough. Ryan met her eyes, and she saw something there. She recognized the same burning purpose that had driven her for 15 years. Your father died trying to expose these people. Tonight, we can finish what he started. Ryan's jaw tightened. I'm not walking away from that. Elena looked at Torres. What do you need? Time. An hour to reposition my team, coordinate with Coast Guard, get assets in place for a proper takedown. Torres hesitated. Someone to delay the departure. Make sure that ship doesn't leave before we're ready. Elena turned back to Ryan. An hour. We can do an hour. Ryan glanced at Titan. What do you think, boy? One more mission. The German shepherd's tail wagged once, his eyes bright with something that looked almost like anticipation. Elena made her decision. I'm coming with you. Elena, these are my people, my city, my fight. She holstered her weapon and straightened her shoulders. Besides, you might need someone who can actually arrest these bastards when we're done. Ryan studied her for a moment, then nodded. Okay, detective, let's go finish this. Torres provided them with a vehicle, tactical vests, and a communication frequency that bypassed normal channels. As they prepared to leave, she pulled Elena aside. What you did tonight, exposing Coal, getting Webb to flip, that was exceptional work. The kind of work that makes careers. I don't care about my career. I know, Torres smiled. That's why I'm offering you a job. After this is over, if we survive, I want you on my task force. Permanent assignment, federal authority, full resources to continue investigating the network Coal built. Elena blinked. You're serious? Human trafficking doesn't end with one arrest. Coal was right about that much. The Hydra has many heads. But I've spent 10 years hunting them, and I've never met anyone with your kind of determination. Torres extended her hand. Think about it. Elena shook it. Ask me again when we're not about to storm a port full of mercenaries. Deal. Ryan was waiting by the vehicle, Titan already loaded in the back. Ready? He asked. Elena looked back at the salvage yard, the place where she had come to die, the place where she had found a reason to live. Let's go save some lives. The vehicle pulled out onto the access road heading towards Seattle, and the final confrontation that would determine whether Coal's empire truly died tonight or simply changed hands. Behind them, the sun was rising over Spokane, painting the frozen landscape in shades of gold and red. Somewhere in that light, Elena thought she could feel her father watching, smiling, proud. The drive to Seattle took 2 hours and 40 minutes. Ryan pushed the vehicle hard, weaving through early morning traffic with the focus of a man who had spent years running convoys through hostile territory. Elena sat in the passenger seat checking and rechecking her weapon, her mind racing through scenarios. Titan lay in the back, conserving energy the way working dogs learn to do before an operation. "Tell me about the port," Elena said. "Container terminal. 6 berths each capable of handling ships up to 300 meters. The maintenance tunnels run underneath the loading areas, originally built for electrical and plumbing access, but they connect most of the facility." Ryan's eyes never left the road. "Security is privatized, contracted to a company called Sentinel Maritime. Let me guess, Cole has connections. Cole probably owns them." Ryan's jaw tightened. "The tunnels will get us close, but once we're inside the main terminal, we'll be exposed. If they have the security feeds, they'll see us coming. Then we need to kill the feeds." "That's the plan. There's a junction box in the eastern maintenance shaft. Cut the right cables, and we buy ourselves maybe 10 minutes of blindness." Elena absorbed this information. "And the ship. Where are they keeping the victims?" "Container ships have multiple holds. If I had to guess, they'll use a refrigerated unit, climate-controlled, isolated from the main cargo. Standard procedure for moving human cargo." The clinical nature of the description made Elena's stomach turn. "How do you know all this?" Ryan was quiet for a moment. 2 years ago, we intercepted a ship off the coast of Yemen. Intelligence said it was carrying weapons. It was carrying people. 47 women and girls packed into a container like animals." His voice went flat. "We saved 32 of them. The others didn't survive the transit." Elena didn't ask what happened to the traffickers. She didn't need to. "This is personal for you too. It's personal for anyone who's seen what these people do." Ryan glanced at her. "Your father fought this fight. Now you're fighting it. That means something." "It means I have a lot of ghosts watching over my shoulder." "Ghosts can be useful. They remind you why you keep going." Elena looked out the window at the gray landscape rushing past. "After tonight, I might have a few more. After tonight, you might have saved 37 people who would have become ghosts themselves." They rode in silence for the next hour. The port appeared through the morning haze like a city of steel and concrete. Cranes towered over stacked containers, their arms frozen in mechanical prayer. Ships sat at berths, their hulls massive and indifferent. The scale of the operation was staggering: thousands of containers, hundreds of workers, billions of dollars moving through every day. The perfect place to hide human cargo. Ryan pulled the vehicle into an industrial lot half a mile from the main terminal. "From here we go on foot. The tunnel entrance is through that drainage culvert." He turned to face Elena. "Last chance to back out." "I didn't come this far to back out. I had to ask." Ryan reached into the back and retrieved 2 tactical vests, handing one to Elena. "Comms are on Channel 7. Torres will be monitoring. If things go sideways, we call for extraction. And if extraction isn't possible..." Ryan's eyes met hers. "Then we make sure it matters." Elena strapped on the vest, feeling its weight settle against her chest like armor. Titan emerged from the vehicle, his body instantly shifting into work mode. His ears rotated forward. His movements became precise and controlled, his eyes sharp with focus. "He knows," Elena observed. "He always knows." Ryan clipped a small camera to Titan's collar. "Torres's team will see what he sees. If we get separated, he can scout ahead." They moved quickly through the industrial zone, avoiding the few workers who had arrived for early shifts. The drainage culvert was exactly where Ryan had said it would be, a concrete pipe wide enough for a man to crawl through, leading into the darkness beneath the terminal. Elena went first. The tunnel was cold, damp, and absolutely dark. She pulled out her flashlight, keeping the beam low, and began the slow crawl toward the junction point Ryan had described. Behind her, she could hear Ryan's steady breathing, Titan's soft padding, the distant hum of machinery above them. After 10 minutes, the tunnel opened into a larger maintenance shaft. Ryan took the lead now, navigating by memory, and the occasional glimpse of his compass. They moved quickly, but quietly, their footsteps absorbed by the concrete and steel. "Junction box is 50 meters ahead," Ryan whispered. "Once I cut the feeds, we have maybe 10 minutes before someone notices and switches to backup." "That's not much time." "It's enough if we move fast." They reached the junction box, a gray metal cabinet bolted to the wall, its surface marked with warning labels and serial numbers. Ryan produced a multi-tool and went to work, his hands moving with practiced efficiency. Elena watched their backs, weapon ready every sense, straining for signs of approach. "Done," Ryan said. "Feeds are down. Clock starts now." They moved. The maintenance shaft led to a service door that opened into the main terminal. Elena blinked against the sudden brightness. Industrial lights illuminating rows of containers, stacked 4 high forklifts, moving in careful patterns, workers in hard hats going about their business. "There." Ryan pointed toward the eastern berth, where a mid-sized cargo ship sat low in the water. "That's the one. The Meridian Star. Registered in Panama, last port of call was Busan." "How do we know the victims are on board?" "We don't. But Torres's intel said the shipment was scheduled for tonight, and that's the only vessel preparing for departure." Elena studied the ship. Armed men stood at the gangway, their posture professional and alert. More guards patrolled the deck, their weapons visible. "That's a lot of firepower. Private military contractors, probably former special forces, definitely well paid." Ryan's voice was grim. "They won't hesitate to shoot." "Then we need to get aboard without being seen." Titan whined softly, his nose pointed toward a stack of containers near the ship's stern. "What is it, boy?" The German shepherd pulled at his lead, clearly wanting to investigate. Ryan and Elena followed. Behind the container stack, they found a loading crane positioned directly over the ship's rear hold. The crane's operator cab was empty, its controls dark. "Can you operate that?" Elena asked. Ryan studied the machinery. "Basic crane operation, yes, but it'll make noise. The moment I start it up, every guard on that ship will know someone's there. Unless they're distracted." Ryan turned to look at her. "What are you thinking?" "Torres said she needed an hour. We've used most of that already." Elena checked her watch. "If her team is in position, they're waiting for a signal. What if we give them something impossible to ignore?" "Like what?" Elena's eyes moved to the ship's fuel intake valve, visible on the dock beside the gangway. "Like a fire." Ryan followed her gaze. "That's insane." "It's a distraction. A fuel spill near the intake will trigger emergency protocols. The guards will have to respond. It's too big a risk to ignore. While they're dealing with that, you use the crane to get aboard, find the victims. And you?" "I keep the guards busy." Elena's voice was steady. "I've been a cop for 12 years. I know how to survive." "Elena, these aren't street criminals. They're trained killers." "So am I." She met his eyes. "My father died fighting these people. I'm not going to hide while others take the risks." Ryan stared at her for a long moment. "Your father was a brave man." "He was an idiot who got himself killed." Elena's voice cracked slightly. "But he was right. Some things are worth dying for." Ryan reached out and gripped her shoulder. "Don't die. We've got too much unfinished business." Elena almost smiled. "Is that an order, sailor?" "It's a request, from someone who might actually miss you." They held each other's gaze for a heartbeat longer than necessary. Then Ryan turned to Titan. "You're with her. Protect." The German shepherd immediately moved to Elena's side, his body positioned between her and the ship. "He doesn't listen to me," Elena said. "He listens to whoever needs protecting. Right now, that's you." Ryan pulled out his radio. "Channel 7. Torres, this is Mitchell. We're in position. Initiating distraction in 90 seconds. Be ready to move." Torres's voice crackled back. "Copy that. Coast Guard is standing by. FBI Tactical is 3 minutes out. Give us something to work with." "Roger." Ryan looked at Elena one last time. 90 seconds. Then all hell breaks loose. He disappeared into the maze of containers. Elena counted to 30, then began moving toward the fuel intake valve. Titan ghosted beside her, his presence comforting and terrifying in equal measure. 60 seconds. She reached the edge of the container stack nearest the dock. The fuel intake was 30 yards away, guarded by a single contractor who looked bored and cold. 45 seconds. Elena pulled a road flare from her vest, standard emergency equipment easily overlooked during a routine search. She cracked the igniter, felt the heat flare in her hand. 30 seconds. She took a breath. 20 seconds. The guard shifted his weight, glancing toward the ship. 10 seconds. Elena moved. She sprinted across the open ground, her boots pounding against concrete, the flare burning bright in her hand. The guard saw her. His eyes went wide, his hand reaching for his weapon, but Titan was faster. The German Shepherd hit him low and hard, knocking him off balanced jaws, clamping on his arm before he could draw. Elena reached the fuel valve, twisted it open, and threw the flare. The fuel ignited with a whoosh that sucked the air from her lungs. Flames spread across the dock, orange and hungry, climbing toward the ship's hull. Alarms began to scream. Workers scattered. Guards shouted and ran toward the growing inferno. Elena grabbed Titan's collar and pulled. "Come on!" They ran, ducking behind containers, using the chaos as cover. The fire was spreading faster than she had anticipated. The fuel line must have been pressurized, feeding the flames with a steady stream of accelerant. "Mitchell, the fire's out of control!" she shouted into her radio. "I see it. I'm on the crane. Moving now." Elena looked up and saw the crane arm swinging over the ship, a container suspended from its cables. Ryan was in the operator's cab, his hands moving over the controls with desperate speed. But something was wrong. The guards weren't running toward the fire. They were running toward the crane. "Ryan, you've got incoming." "I know. Keep moving. I'll handle it." Elena watched as the first guard reached the crane's base and began climbing the access ladder. Another followed, then a third. Ryan was about to be surrounded. "Titan, go. Help him." The German Shepherd looked at her, confusion in his eyes. His orders were to protect. "Go!" Elena shouted. "He needs you more than I do." Titan hesitated for one more heartbeat, then turned and ran toward the crane, his powerful legs eating up the distance. Elena was alone. She moved through the container stacks, her weapon drawn, her ears straining for sounds of pursuit. The fire had created pandemonium, workers running alarms, blaring emergency vehicles approaching in the distance. Torres's voice crackled in her ear. "FBI Tactical is on site. We're breaching the main gate. What's your status?" "Separated from Mitchell. He's on the crane. Multiple hostiles closing on his position." "Copy. Diverting assets." Elena rounded a corner and came face to face with a guard. He was young, mid-20s, with the hard eyes of a man who had seen combat. His weapon was already up, already aimed at her chest. "Police!" Elena said, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. "Drop your weapon." The guard smiled. "You're the detective, the one Cole wanted dead. News travels fast. Cole pays well, even from a jail cell." The guard's finger tightened on the trigger. "His friends wanted me to send a message." Elena's mind raced. No cover, no backup, no options. What message? That some problems don't go away just because you arrest one man. The guard's smile widened. A shadow moved behind him. Titan hit the guard from behind with 70 pounds of fury jaws, finding the arm that held the weapon, dragging him down before he could fire. The gun discharged once, the bullet sparking off a container 10 feet to Elena's left. She moved without thinking, closing the distance, driving her knee into the guard's face as Titan held him pinned. The guard went limp. "I thought I told you to help Ryan." Titan looked up at her, his tail wagging slightly, his expression almost smug. "Right. You don't take orders from me." More gunfire erupted from the direction of the crane. Elena ran. She found Ryan pinned down at the base of the crane, two guards closing from opposite directions. He was bleeding from a wound on his shoulder, the old injury reopened, but his weapon was up, his eyes clear. "About time," he shouted when he saw her. Elena dropped behind a concrete barrier and opened fire. Her first shot, caught the guard on the left in the leg. He went down screaming. The second guard dove for cover, giving Ryan the opening he needed. He scrambled toward Elena's position, Titan providing covering fire of his own by harrying the remaining guard, keeping him off balance. "The container," Ryan gasped. "I got it on deck. Hold door starboard side." "Did you see them, the victims?" "No, but I heard them, pounding on the walls." Ryan's face was grim. "They're in there, Elena. They're alive." The sound of helicopters filled the air. Coast Guard, FBI Tactical, Torres's cavalry had arrived. "Mitchell Vasquez, this is Torres. We're taking the ship. Get clear." Elena looked at the Meridian Star, now swarming with tactical teams, the fire on the dock being suppressed by emergency crews. "Come on," she said. "We've done our part." But Ryan wasn't moving. He was staring at something beyond the ship, his face frozen in recognition. "Ryan, what is it?" "There." He pointed toward a black SUV pulling away from the far end of the terminal. "That's the buyer. The one Cole was selling to." Elena squinted at the vehicle, trying to make out the figure in the back seat. And then she saw him. Silver hair, distinguished bearing. A face she had seen on television dozens of times. Senator William Cross, Richard Cross's brother, the senior senator from Washington State, chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Cole's true master. "That's impossible," Elena breathed. "That's the Hydra," Ryan said. "The head we didn't see coming." The SUV disappeared through a service gate, vanishing into the morning traffic. Elena's radio crackled. "All teams, we have the ship. 37 survivors recovered. I repeat, 37 survivors, all alive." The words should have felt like victory. Instead, Elena watched the taillights disappear and felt the weight of a new truth settling onto her shoulders. Cole was in custody. Webb had flipped. The trafficking ring was exposed. But the real enemy had just driven away. And he knew exactly who was coming for him. Torres appeared beside them, her face a mixture of triumph and concern. 37 lives saved. Cole's network is finished. This is a win, Elena. Is it? Elena's eyes were still fixed on the place where the SUV had vanished. Senator Cross was here. He's the one above Cole. He's been running this operation from Washington. Torres's expression hardened. "You're sure?" I saw his face. Torres was silent for a long moment. A sitting United States Senator, chairman of Judiciary, one of the most powerful men in Congress. She shook her head slowly. "Even with everything we have on Cole, Cross is untouchable. He has immunity, political protection, an army of lawyers." "Then we make him touchable." Elena turned to face Torres. "You said you wanted me on your task force. I'm accepting, but I'm not stopping with Cole. I'm going all the way to the top." Torres studied her face, the determination, the fury, the grief that had been burning for 15 years. "This will take years. Cross has built his protection for decades. One wrong move and he'll destroy you." "Let him try." Elena's voice was steel. "I've been dead once already today. It didn't stick." Ryan stepped forward, Titan at his side. "She won't be alone." Torres looked between them, the detective who had lost everything and kept fighting the soldier who had found a reason to fight again. "Okay," she said finally. "We do this together, but carefully, methodically. We build an airtight case before we make a move." "How long?" "Months, maybe years." Elena nodded slowly. "My father waited 15 years for justice. I can wait a little longer." She looked out over the port, where FBI agents were leading survivors off the ship, where the flames were finally dying down, where the sun was breaking through the morning clouds. 37 lives saved, one monster exposed, one more waiting in the shadows. Elena Vasquez had started this night expecting to die. She was ending it with a purpose that would define the rest of her life. And somewhere in Washington, a senator was about to learn that some problems don't disappear when you kill one detective. Sometimes they come back stronger. 18 months later. Elena Vasquez stood in the hallway of the Hart Senate office building, her FBI badge heavy against her chest, her heart pounding with the steady rhythm of anticipation. The investigation had been brutal. 18 months of dead ends, false leads, disappeared witnesses, and threats that arrived in unmarked envelopes. Senator William Cross had used every weapon in his considerable arsenal: political pressure, media manipulation, legal challenges that tied the investigation in knots for months at a time. But Elena had learned something from her father. Persistence was its own form of courage. Ryan appeared beside her Titan at his heel. The German Shepherd was older now, gray appearing around his muzzle, but his eyes were still sharp, still alert, still ready. "Torres just texted. The warrant is signed." Elena exhaled slowly. "Finally. You okay?" "I've been waiting for this moment for 15 years. Elena's voice was steady, but her hands were trembling. "I'm not sure okay is the right word." "What is the right word?" Elena thought about it. "Ready." The doors to the senator's office opened, and a young aide stepped out, her face pale with confusion. "The senator is in a meeting. He can't be—" Elena held up the warrant. "Senator William Cross is under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, human trafficking, racketeering, and obstruction of justice. This warrant authorizes federal agents to take him into custody immediately." The aide's face went white. "That's impossible. The senator has immunity." "Congressional immunity doesn't cover federal crimes committed outside official duties." Elena's voice was ice. "Step aside." The aide looked from Elena to Ryan to the team of FBI agents assembling behind them and made the smart choice. She stepped aside. Elena pushed through the doors. Senator William Cross sat behind his mahogany desk phone pressed to his ear, his silver hair perfectly styled, his expression one of practiced concern. He was talking to someone about infrastructure spending, his voice carrying the confident authority of a man who had never faced consequences for anything. He looked up when Elena entered, and for just a moment his mask slipped. Recognition, fear, and then something that looked almost like admiration. "I'll call you back," he said into the phone and set it down carefully. "Detective Vasquez, or should I say, Special Agent Vasquez." Cross's voice was smooth, controlled. "I've been following your career with great interest." "Senator Cross, you're under arrest." Elena moved around the desk, her hand reaching for her cuffs. "Stand up, hands behind your back." Cross didn't move. "You know your father and I met once. Did he ever tell you that—" Elena's blood turned to ice. 15 years ago at a charity event, he was investigating some irregularities in the Port Authority, suspicious shipments, falsified records. Very thorough work. Cross's smile was reptilian. "I told him to be careful. I told him that some questions have dangerous answers." "He didn't listen to you." "No, he didn't." Cross's eyes hardened. "And neither apparently did you." "Stand up, Senator." Cross remained seated, his fingers steepled in front of him like a man contemplating a chess problem. "Do you have any idea what you're doing? I have friends in every branch of government. Judges who owe me favors, colleagues who depend on my support. Within 24 hours, this arrest will be dismissed, your career will be over, and your name will be synonymous with political overreach." "Maybe." Elena's voice didn't waver. "But you'll still have to answer for what you've done. In court. In public. Under oath." "I'll never see the inside of a courtroom." "That's what Cole said." Elena leaned closer. "He's been in prison for 18 months. His appeals have been denied. His lawyers have abandoned him. And last week he agreed to testify against you in exchange for a reduced sentence." For the first time, Cross's composure cracked. "Cole would never. Cole is a survivor. When he realized you were going to let him rot, he decided to save himself." Elena smiled a cold, satisfied expression. "He gave us everything. Bank accounts, communications recordings, 20 years of your partnership documented and verified." Cross's face went pale. "That's not possible. Those records were destroyed." "Cole made copies. Insurance, he called it." Elena straightened. "Now stand up, Senator, or I'll have my colleague assist you." Ryan stepped forward, Titan growling low beside him. Cross looked at the dog, at Ryan's implacable expression, at the FBI agents filing into his office. And finally he stood. "You're making a mistake, Detective. This doesn't end with me. The network I built, the people who depend on it, they won't simply disappear because you put me in handcuffs." "I know." Elena secured the cuffs around his wrists. "That's why I'm not stopping with you." She turned him toward the door where cameras were already waiting, tipped off by someone on Torres's team. The senator's perp walk would be on every news channel within the hour. "Senator William Cross, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." Cross laughed, that same unstable sound his brother Richard had made when he was arrested 18 months ago. "Your father would be proud," he said. "He was a fool, but he was a brave fool, just like you." Elena stopped walking. She turned to face the man who had destroyed her family, who had built an empire on human suffering, who had believed himself untouchable. "My father wasn't a fool. He was a hero, and you're going to spend the rest of your life paying for what you did to him." She pushed Cross forward into the flashbulbs and shouting reporters into the justice that had been denied for 15 years. Behind her, Ryan watched with something that might have been pride. And Titan wagged his tail just once as if to say, "Well done." The trial lasted 8 months. Cross hired the best lawyers money could buy. Challenged, every piece of evidence attacked, every witness tried every legal maneuver that had worked for powerful men before him. None of it was enough. Cole's testimony was devastating: names, dates, amounts, operations spanning 2 decades. Webb's recordings captured Cross ordering murders, approving shipments, celebrating the money that flowed from human misery. And then there were the survivors. 37 people who had been rescued from the Meridian Star took the stand one by one and told their stories. Women who had been sold like property. Children who had been trafficked across continents. Families torn apart by an operation that treated human beings as cargo. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts. Senator William Cross was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Elena sat in the courtroom as the verdict was read, her face impassive, her hands folded in her lap. Beside her, Ryan reached over and squeezed her fingers. "It's over," he said quietly. Elena shook her head. "It's not over. It's just the end of this chapter." She stood as Cross was led away in chains, watching the man who had seemed so powerful, reduced to just another prisoner in an orange jumpsuit. Cross turned at the door, his eyes finding Elena across the crowded courtroom. "This changes nothing," he called out. "The system I built will survive. Someone else will take my place." Elena met his gaze without flinching. "Maybe, but they'll know we're coming. They'll know that someone is always watching. And they'll know that even the most powerful men can fall." Cross was led away. Elena walked out of the courtroom into the afternoon sunlight, where Torres was waiting with a bottle of champagne. "We did it," Torres said. "The biggest corruption case in federal history. A sitting senator convicted of human trafficking. This is going to change everything." Elena accepted the bottle but didn't drink. Change what? The conversation, the way people think about power, about accountability, about what's possible. Torres's eyes were bright with vindication. "You proved that no one is above the law. That's not nothing." "It feels like nothing." Elena's voice was tired, hollow. "My father is still dead. 15 years of victims are still gone. And somewhere out there, another Cross is building another network." Torres was quiet for a moment. "You're right. This doesn't fix everything. It doesn't bring back your father or undo the damage that's been done." She paused. "But it matters, Elena. Every life we saved, every predator we stopped, every inch of ground we took back from the darkness, it matters." Elena looked at the sky, cloudless and blue, and thought about her father. "He used to tell me that justice wasn't about winning. It was about showing up. Day after day, case after case, fighting battles you might lose because the alternative was letting evil win by default." Sounds like a wise man. He was. Elena's eyes filled with tears. He really was. Ryan appeared with Titan, the German shepherd, pressing against Elena's leg in that way he always did when he sensed distress. "Media's asking for a statement," Ryan said. "Torres wants you to do the honors." Elena wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. "What do I say?" "Whatever you want. This is your moment." Elena thought about it. Then she walked toward the waiting cameras, flanked by the people who had become her family. Ryan Torres Titan, the team that had fought beside her for 18 months. The reporters shouted questions, their voices overlapping in the chaos of a major story breaking. Elena raised her hand and they fell silent. "My name is Elena Vasquez. 15 years ago, my father was murdered for investigating corruption in the Spokane Police Department. Today, the man who ordered that murder was convicted of his crimes." She paused, letting the words settle. "This case started with an anonymous tip designed to lure me to my death. It ended with the exposure of a criminal network that stretched from local police to the United States Senate. Along the way, I learned something important." The cameras focused on her face. "Evil doesn't survive because it's strong. It survives because good people stay silent. Because we convince ourselves that corruption is too embedded to fight, that powerful men are too protected to touch, that the system is too broken to fix." Elena's voice strengthened. "My father didn't believe that. He fought until his last breath, and his fight didn't end when he died. It continued through everyone he inspired, everyone he trained, everyone who remembered what he stood for." She looked directly into the nearest camera. "If you're watching this, and you know something wrong is happening, speak up. If you see injustice and look away, you become part of it. But if you stand, if you fight, if you refuse to be silenced, you become part of something larger than yourself." Elena gestured to Ryan, to Torres, to the team assembled behind her. "I didn't do this alone. I was saved by a stranger who decided that my life was worth fighting for. I was supported by colleagues who risked their careers to pursue the truth. I was protected by a dog who taught me more about loyalty than any human ever could." Titan's tail wagged at the mention. "Justice isn't about one person. It's about all of us choosing to show up day after day, refusing to let the darkness win." Elena took a breath. "My father showed up for 15 years. I've been showing up for 18 months, and I'm not done yet." She turned and walked away from the cameras, Ryan falling into step beside her. "That was good," he said. "It was true." Elena looked at him. "What now?" "Now Torres has a list of about 40 cases that need attention. Cole's network had tentacles we haven't fully traced, and there are rumors of similar operations in other states. So we keep fighting. Until we can't anymore." Ryan's mouth twitched. "Or until you get tired of me." Elena almost smiled. "I haven't gotten tired of you yet." High praise from a woman who was ready to arrest me the first time we met. "You were blocking my car with a German shepherd. What was I supposed to think? That I was dashingly heroic. That you were insane." Ryan laughed a real laugh, the kind Elena had rarely heard from him in the early days. "Fair enough." They walked in silence for a while, Titan trotting between them, the city moving around them with the indifference of a world that didn't know or care about the battles that had been fought in its name. "My father would have liked you," Elena said suddenly. Ryan looked at her. "You think so?" "He liked people who showed up, people who didn't ask what was in it for them." Elena's voice softened. "You showed up when you didn't have to. You stayed when you could have walked away." He would have respected that. I didn't do it for respect. I know. That's why he would have liked you. They reached Ryan's truck, parked on a side street away from the media circus. "So," Ryan said, opening the passenger door for Elena. "Torres's office tomorrow. Start working through those cases." Elena climbed in, Titan, jumping into the back seat with practiced ease. "Tomorrow," she agreed. "But tonight, I want to do something first." "What's that?" Elena looked out the window at the city she had sworn to protect. "I want to visit my father's grave, tell him it's done." Ryan nodded slowly. Want company? Elena was quiet for a moment. Yes, I think I do. The cemetery was peaceful in the late afternoon light. Elena stood before her father's headstone, the letters of his name weathered by 15 years of seasons. Miguel Vasquez, beloved father, devoted husband, faithful servant of justice, 1958 to 2009. Ryan stood a few feet back, Titan sitting quietly at his side, giving Elena the space she needed. Hey, Dad. Elena's voice was thick with emotion. I did it. The man who killed you, he's going to prison forever. His boss, too. The whole network you were fighting against, we tore it down. Every last piece. She knelt in the grass, her fingers tracing the letters of his name. I became a cop because of you. I became a detective because of you. I spent 15 years chasing shadows because I couldn't accept that you were gone, that the people who hurt you would never face justice. Tears streamed down her face. But you knew, didn't you? You knew that justice wasn't about winning or losing. It was about showing up, fighting even when you couldn't see the end, believing that the truth mattered even when everyone else had given up on it. Elena wiped her eyes. I'm not giving up, Dad. Torres wants me to lead a new task force, human trafficking, corruption, organized crime. The kind of work you always dreamed about. The kind that actually makes a difference. She stood, her legs unsteady. I met someone. His name is Ryan. He's a Navy SEAL retired, and he has this dog named Titan, who saved my life more times than I can count. I think you would have liked them both. They're stubborn and loyal and completely impossible, just like you. Ryan heard his name and looked up, meeting Elena's eyes across the cemetery. I'm going to keep fighting, Dad, for as long as it takes, for everyone who can't fight for themselves. Elena's voice strengthened. And every time I feel like giving up, I'm going to remember what you taught me. That one person can make a difference. That courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to act anyway. That love is measured not by what you say, but by what you're willing to sacrifice. She placed her hand on the headstone, feeling the cold stone beneath her fingers. Rest now. I've got it from here. Elena turned and walked back to Ryan. Her steps steady, her shoulders straight. How do you feel? Ryan asked. Lighter. Elena looked back at her father's grave one last time. Like I can finally breathe. That's because you let go of something you've been carrying for 15 years. I didn't let go of him. I'll never let go of him. Elena's voice was soft but certain. I just finally finished what he started. They walked to the truck, Titan bounding ahead, his tail wagging with the simple joy of a dog who was exactly where he belonged. Hey, Ryan. Yeah. Thank you. For everything. Ryan opened her door, his eyes meeting hers. You don't have to thank me. I know, but I want to. Elena paused. That night at the salvage yard when you stepped out of the darkness and stopped my car, you could have walked away. You could have ignored what you heard, gone home, lived your life. But you didn't. No. Why? Ryan was quiet for a moment, his gaze distant with memories. Because I spent 3 years trying to forget what it felt like to fight for something that mattered. And then I heard those men planning your murder, and I remembered. He looked at her. You reminded me why I became a soldier in the first place. Not for medals or glory. For moments like that, when standing up is the only right thing to do. Elena felt tears threatening again. My father used to say that. He sounds like a man worth remembering. He was. Elena climbed into the truck. He really was. Ryan got behind the wheel, Titan settling in the back, and they pulled out of the cemetery as the sun began to set behind the mountains. Where to? Ryan asked. Elena thought about it. Torres mentioned a case in Portland, possible trafficking connection to Cole's old network. She wants us to look into it tomorrow. So we're going to Portland. Eventually. Elena leaned her head against the window. But first, dinner. I'm starving. Ryan smiled. I know a place. They drove through the fading light, a Navy SEAL, and a detective and a German shepherd, who had become something more than partners. Family, maybe. Or just three survivors who had found each other in the darkness and decided to keep walking toward the light. Behind them, Miguel Vasquez's grave settled into the evening quiet, his memory finally at peace. And ahead, the road stretched on full of shadows and secrets and battles yet to be fought. But Elena Vasquez was no longer afraid. She had learned what her father had always known, that courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about being afraid and showing up anyway. It was about standing in the darkness and refusing to look away. It was about fighting for justice, not because you would win, but because the fight itself was what mattered. Miguel Vasquez had fought for 15 years. His daughter would fight for the rest of her life. And somewhere in that endless battle in the space between what was and what should be justice would find its shape. One case at a time. One life at a time. One stubborn refusal to surrender at a time. That was the legacy Miguel Vasquez had left behind. That was the torch Elena Vasquez would carry forward. And that was the truth that had emerged from a frozen salvage yard on a winter night. The truth that evil fears most of all. That good people, ordinary people, flawed people, can choose to be extraordinary. That one voice raised in defiance can become a chorus. That the darkness, no matter how deep, cannot extinguish a single flame that refuses to die. Elena Vasquez had been that flame for 15 years. Now, with Ryan Mitchell and Titan beside her, she would become a fire. And the world would never be the same.